Alright, so continuing with Cryptozoic. And I totally forgot what I was just saying because I had to wait for the video to process. But, um, yeah, okay, well, Cryptozoic, DC comic deck building game. I don't think this is a game I'm ever going to play. One, because, as was predicted, a lot of people have pointed out just how odd and strange it is to have Aquaman take the Flash's speed, or have Superman driving around in the Batmobile, and it's just like complete and total disconnect between theme and mechanics. Whether the mechanics are good or not, it just makes no sense, and it isn't true to the source material. And I have to admit that would really bug me as well. But apparently a lot of people love it. It's just a crazy mashup. I don't know if maybe the game, if they're smart, they have some backstory where they actually have a story as to why all the heroes have to mix up their powers. I mean, I could imagine a comic series like that, particularly in the DC universe, because that's really my other problem with DC Comics. The deck building game, I've never really been that much into DC because DC is just so silly. With the exception of the animated works that have been put out over the last 10 years, DC Comics I can just never get into. So this one, I'm sorry, I just got to make mine Marvel. That's just the way it is. But continuing on, let's see here. Oh, Gravwell. Now that one's really interesting, particularly because this is one of the rare games that Cryptozoics put out that's not based on IP. It's a completely new, original game concept, and it sounds like a really cool concept too. The whole notion of all the gameplay centers around spaceships, trying to slingshot around each other using gravitational wells and all this kind of stuff sounds really, really neat. And I gotta say, I think we should all be encouraging Cryptozoic to continue to try to come up with new original concepts, while at the same time they are getting better and better at making better and better franchise games too. So that's very, very cool that they're branching out like this and demoing it. So I think this is definitely one that's worth looking at while at the show. Now, Lord of the Rings, the deck builder. Apparently, the first one for the Fellowship is very, very good. Lord of the Rings and DC and the Penny Arcade, apparently they all use the exact same deck building system. They're all. I wouldn't be surprised if you could actually all put them together and play them as some big gigantic mashup because they play exactly the same. Or so I've read, or so I've been led to believe. But the interesting thing is that the Two Towers plays with that, or the Lord of the Rings plays with that system, but that the system works really well, and it actually thematically meshes quite nicely, unlike the DC deck builder. And so because of that, I've always been very interested in trying to get these, particularly because my wife is the biggest, well, not the biggest, but a big Tolkien fangirl. She's actually read the Silmarillion, and that's some dedication right there. And now, heck, there's a sequel out. I would definitely like to get my hands on these. Certainly I'd like to do a demo. Let's see, probably won't be available at Gencon, but you will be able to demo the game. But that'd be great. That'd be a fantastic game to demo, to learn, to see firsthand. Does the game live up? Is it worth picking up? Because I would like to know. Rolling on the floor laughing. I hear it's really, really good, but it's a 3-player party game, so well. Days of Wonder and their one game a year policy. This year it is Relic Runners. Okay, and Jen just wants to say hi. Let's see here. Hi. Can't talk now. Alrighty, and you guys got to see a little bit of our private conversation there because, of course, there was a history. Jen had fajitas last night. Don't you feel more informed? Oh, she's back. Oh, what does she want? Okay, she says. All right. Bye, honey. Okay, Days of Wonders, Relic Runners. Every year they put out one really big game. They pull out all the stops. That's just kind of their way of going. And this is what it is this year. And unfortunately, we know almost nothing about this game other than it's Days of Wonder's latest yearly game. And boy, I'd really like to know more. But quite frankly, Days of Wonder always puts together a really top-notch presentation. They're really well thought out games. Very solid. It's just always a question of, just how good the game is. The games are always good, but sometimes they're so light as to really not be worth, playing too terribly much. Although, actually, I should say, we like Cargo Noir. Is that a, I guess you could call it a guilty pleasure since so many people seem to bag on it. Although, apparently, it's a huge, major hit for them. I remember reading in some industry sales reports that it was like one of the biggest sellers of that year. So, I'm not alone. Cargo Noir, it's actually a pretty cool game. It's just a pure auction game. It's just, that's the thing that is what makes it good. It's just its purity. And I mean, maybe it plays better with 2 than with more because we've only played it with 2, but we really like it. And so Days of Wonder, I think it's always worth paying attention to what their latest thing is. And heck, you'll be able to play it at Gencon to know if you want to buy it in September. How handy is that? On to Dice Hate Me. Compounded, I was really back and forth on backing this. I really love the idea of it, this kind of semi-abstract game all about chemical compounds, combining to create new chemical compounds and all of that. But, in the end, I just couldn't really quite pull the trigger because they didn't really quite convince me of the gameplay. And so, I mean, this is a perfect game to demo because it's so hard to get your head around what it is, but it could be so very cool. If I were there, this would be another high one on my list to demo. Drunk Ass Games. Okay. 2 to 5, action, dexterity, dice, mature adult party game called Death Cup. Why is it that adult and mature always means the exact opposite? Why did mature actually become a stand-in for immature? Because I'm sure this is just a silly, goofy, immature game, and there's nothing adult about it. This is probably all, teen-level comedy. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, I don't know, I'm just getting stuck up on words. It just seems very, mature and adult games are never mature or adult. And as is generally the case, a party-ish type game, they generally, even if they can go down to 2, don't play that well. What is this? This is quarters. Okay, well, that's cute, but even still, I think, I don't know. Moving on. Eagle Games. Eagle Games is one of the companies that makes me sad I don't live in America because it's often so hard to get their games over here, or their expansions. Although Francis Drake I'm not too worried about because, hey, 3-player minimum. Doesn't matter how awesome it looks, and it looks really, really awesome. But, c'est la vie, 3 players, can't play it, moving on. Railways Express. I love Railways of the World. One of the best games there is, period. Really, really good. And so I'd love to see a dice version of it. But, who knows when it'll ever make it over to... hopefully I'll be able to see it at Essen. But in the meantime, I've got Rolling Freight, which is basically a dice version of Railways of the World also. So that's pretty cool. Railways of the World North America, a new map, and as I recall, it adds some pretty significant new gameplay, which is very, very cool. Would love to be able to get this map, although who knows how well it will actually do with 2 players. It says best with 3 or 4, so it probably won't be a very good 2-player map anyway. Still need to get myself that England one. Alrighty, Fantasy Flight. Hello, FF. Battlestar Galactica, 3-player. No thanks. Bloodbound, 6-player. No thanks. Eldritch Horror. Okay. Jen and I have tried to enjoy Arkham Horror a couple of times, and we just couldn't do it. Putting aside all the ridiculously complex, arcane, overwrought rules, which I'm certain this game might as well be considered kind of the spiritual sequel. It could be called, Arkham Horror 2 Eldritch Rising or something like that. It's basically, it seems like it's pretty much Arkham Horror, but on a world stage instead of like a little town. You're zipping around from continent to continent instead of from street to street. But, and I guess there are no monsters moving around. But still, it's all about going to a certain place, drawing a card, seeing what it is you have to do, and then rolling some dice. At least that's what it looks like. Now, it does seem like it adds some new stuff. Most notably having to collect tickets to be able to get around, and maybe that's cool. But honestly, I just worry about, even with streamlined play, it's just not enough for us generally. Not always, but generally, to play a game where all you do is just go from A to B, draw a card, and the card pretty much tells you what to do. We'll forgive it in a few cases, like Agents of Smersh. But, I don't know, actually, this seems like Arkham Horror meets Agents of Smersh, which is really Tales of the Arabian Nights, set in spy, swinging... Austin Powers spy type stuff. But anyway, so I don't know. Definitely worth demoing. Is it for sale there? No, if it was for sale, it would sell out, definitely. But, I look forward to hearing more, definitely. And Fireside Games. Oh, Dead Panic. Yeah. Fireside Games, they're great. I believe it's a husband and wife team who say, to heck with Kickstarter, heck with all that, we're just going to publish our games. And they've found a way to do it, and they've been profitable, and just more power to them. And now, Castle Panic is a great game for families. Jen and I, we wanted to love it so much, and we tried really hard, and we kept increasing the difficulty in every way suggested, in every way we could think of. But no matter how hard we tried, it was just always way too easy. And I think in part that's because I think to a certain extent it was a little bit designed to be a semi-co-op. There's supposed to be some selfishness, which we just wouldn't do. But yeah, the game is just it just kind of plays on autopilot. At least with 2 players. With more players, it gets a bit more interesting, to be fair. And we have gotten the expansion, so we're really looking forward to that. Hopefully that'll spice it up. But love the basic idea, and certainly hope that Dead Panic will, play better for 2 right out of the box, because it looks great. I mean, it still takes that basic idea of, tower defense, where you've got your thing you have to defend in the center, and you've got all the rings, and the bad guys move in, and they all have special powers. But now you can leave the castle, or in this case, the cabin, and you can walk around the board. And I suspect that's going to make it play very, very differently. So I'm very excited about that. And this is another high probability sellout. I'd be willing to bet. I think there's going to be a lot of people after this one. This is one of those few zombie games that actually gets me excited. And so I can't wait to hear more about it. Really looking forward to it. And Floodgate. Oh, whoops. Okay, yeah, I'm going to stop right there at the Fs. And we'll be back shortly in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.